Hey guys, it's Sarah with Grassroots Evolution Tarot. I'm here today. I bring a message for you, a nice Sunday vibe check-in and see what's going on. I got the Shaman's Oracle today for our messages from Spirit, the Dragon Tarot, and the self-love, or the self-care. So I want to see what messages we have before I get started. Just want to thank you all for being here, for all my subscribers. I love you from the bottom of my heart. You guys mean the world to me. And if you're new to my channel, welcome. Thanks for stopping by. If you feel like this resonates and would like to see more, please hit subscribe. Join the journey with me. I'd love to have you along the ride. Ooh, almost bending my spirit of empowerment. That's funny, actually. And the spirit of love came out with that. I feel like that's important. Interesting. Okay, it's coming in quick. Anyway, so I'm just going to take a moment to call in Spirit. I'm going to ask Archangel Michael, Archangel Metatron, my team of light, and any of your spirit guides or mine that would be here for the highest good of the entire collective. Also any ancestors that are here for any guidance and wisdom they'd like to share, again, that is here for our highest good. I'm going to ask them to guide, guard, bless, and protect myself, this reading, and any of you guys who would ask for it, to use me as the clearest channel possible, delivering messages that are for the most far-reaching of you, but again, top-notch, nothing under that. So let's see what messages we get here today. We have the Dragons Tarot as well. I've got a bunch that have flipped over. So definitely feel like there's a strong ancestor presence, because I was thinking about calling the ancestors in, and then when this came out, I was like, yeah, because there's some serious guidance going on. I don't know if you guys can hear it, but the clock tower bells are going off in the town I live in. So to me, that's always, extra spirit of confirmation. So this spirit of empowerment is such a cool card to me. So it also, to me, is like someone may have, or you have been tested, my friend. Someone may have tried to break your spirit, tried to take away, your empowerment, or, maybe it's been a really long time for you to get to a place in your world where, you do feel empowerment, and that's your divine birthright, my friends. The spirit of love is here as well. I feel like it's so important that this spirit of empowerment, the spirit of love, and the ancestor guidance all coming out here, because there's a lot in the ethereal realm. So for some of you, you could be, kind of getting nudges and winks from spirit guides. I want to tell you what happens to me. You might experience it too. Sometimes when a spirit guide is trying to get my attention, depending on the earrings I'm wearing, if they're dangly, I get a flick. My necklaces used to make a weird noise, so if I was wearing a really long pendant or something, I wouldn't be moving, but all of a sudden it moved, like it flicked. There are certain things, depending, the spirit's going to get to how they're going to work with you. For some of us, I just want to say, sometimes that feels scary at first, but if you are experiencing this and it's scary, you can always tell the spirit that is working with you, hey, I know that kind of frightened me. Please, can you come in a form that's not so scary? And, work with them, because sometimes they don't understand, right? It's this human concept. So I want to show you the tarot that popped out is the Seven of Cups. We have the Three of Wands in reverse, with Temperance in the reverse, and the Ten of Swords in the reverse. For some of you, what I just heard, and it was right away, was there's a stalemate. Right? There's definitely a stalemate. This waiting, normally in the upright, you can see it. And what I heard is it feels like sometimes, or it has felt like there's been no road ahead, right? For some of you, what I heard is you may be standing here and it feels you might as well be looking at bush, right? But what I heard is grab the trail map, making sure that, so what they're saying is you would never go on a 15-kilometer hike, right, without a trail map. You shouldn't. Why? You get lost. And also, if you go on these places and they ask you to sign the registry, it's because they want to know if they have to go looking for people. It's just safety concerns, right? That aside, there is a reason here, I feel like, that something's been a long time coming, or a long-standing situationship is what I heard, relationship, friendship. I also heard it could be like romantic friendships. This could just be something that has really, I'm trying to give it the words. First off, I heard that there's some underhandedness that's been done. But there's been something, I think within ourselves that is coming out here with this spirit of love, spirit of empowerment that has this learned helplessness of not getting what we want or not feeling fulfilled. And that I think what I heard is it's really important for us to take an active role in filling each of these cups up and not looking at it like, oh, well, if I get all of these cups are important, right? So we need to prioritize all of them, because if we are allowing some of them to grow mold and rust because whatever we had in them last we weren't sure about, but we didn't take the time to clean it, it's always going to be important to add new things. So if we're going about our days, or if we're with people, or if we're having trouble seeing through the brush, this needs to be that on a day-to-day thing, like with the self-care, we take the time to polish up, wash up these cups, say, hey, I've sat with this for a while, do I want to keep this or not? They're giving me an example, okay? So when I go to Value Village, I super love that store. Like, it's a thrift store. If you guys, wherever you are, don't have Value Village, but we like to go different ones just to see what they have and all that different stuff. But sometimes when I find things I like, I want it, I hold it for a while, walk around the store, just it's mine for a bit, and then you can really make that decision. For some of us, if we put a lot of stuff in the carts, you really have to go back and ask yourself, does this belong to me? I had it for a while, can I put it back? Is this something I need, or is this something I want? And is the price decent, right? Because sometimes I feel like, and it bugs me, this does bug me as a thrifter, when, this stuff is donated, there's overhead costs and all that stuff, but some of the stuff is almost the same price as where you would have bought it at a Giant Tiger, okay, or a Walmart. So if you know your brand, sometimes you're looking at going, not cool. And then the markup on stuff that is higher quality, when it's like, this is all donated, really, these things shouldn't be crazy prices, right? So that's the end of my rant for that. But there's a little bit of screw capitalism in my voice, because I think it's hard, because the idea of thrifting and having those kinds of stores is really great, but when it starts getting like higher and higher, and you're looking at all the things that are getting rung through and how much you spend every time, this is not like, this is an idea that's really good, but then capitalism comes and takes over and says, how can we profit from this? So yes, it's still in most cases cheaper and better than going to get something new. You're taking things out of the landfill, and again, production is really hard for the environment, so you're slowing production down. You don't need to do as many things if more people are doing this. Will just say, and this is a rant if you don't want to hear it move through, but I was going through, and you can really tell, like, some of these places that are really kind of fast fashion is what I'll call it, like, where you have to get apps or things like that, just order it, and they're getting, all these clothing. The fabric was so thin, like, there was such a difference in quality, and as well as to look at that and to know, like, you want me to pay this when this was super cheap already, right? It comes through, and it just, the quality of some of that stuff, I think what I heard is it's really important to be an informed shopper, and this is, no apologies for my rant. Okay, if you know that a place where you're ordering these clothing and you're getting them constantly, and I apologize if you don't like it, but if you know that this is the place it's doing is like ruining the environment for the people around there because of all the dyes and toxins that it takes to make these clothes, and that the people that are there are friggin' locked in for 8 to 10 hours or are getting paid nothing, and you are enjoying this because this is like not your problem, but this all comes around, goes around, comes around, and I think that informed consumership is really going to be important. It's not only important for first off, the environment. Everybody's on about, let's get electric cars. Well, there's a lot of things about that as well, right? In terms of the carbon footprints on what is actually better. Well, I think it's really important that we think about what is the footprint that we wear. It's important if you guys want, if you want to take part in this. And there's nothing wrong, I just want to say, with like brand names or these things, but when it is getting in excess, and a lot of people use these services, right? And you think about every time when people get them and how much is being wasted. there's a lot to that. Okay, so I'm gonna just say, take a look at the back of your tag, and as a little social experiment. Okay, and this is where, again, for some things it's different convention, because we want to buy brand new stuff, but when we really think about the environment, the ecosystem, and everything that this has to go on, see where your shit was made, and if you can find into the company, that's important, right? But see how many hands had to touch this for you to have it, right? And then if we get it, right, and it's been shipped, for a lot of this stuff that come on Wish, comes through Amazon, comes through Shein, or insert your brand, right? Even so much so, like the underwear companies, when we don't always like them, the stuff is getting shipped all the time, and it's a massive amount of waste. Consumer culture, there's nothing wrong with being different. And what I want to say is, if your little heart desires, if we're filling these things up with things, if we're putting, these are cups. So for some of us, it's sorry that the rant upsets you, but the reason it's there is because this has to do with our heart space. This has to do with, the things that fill our cups. And if our cups are being filled up with jewelry, with shoes, with makeup, with clothes, with tools, right? There's things that we're allowed to have that make us happy, because these are hobbies, okay? But when it starts to get so much to the point of all of our time and resources are being put into certain things, and those things are material, we're losing the point a little bit. So then the issue, I think, is with our hearts, right? If you're allowing yourself, if you're allowing yourself to fill up all these cups and to feel empowered through a few things, okay? One's through, it's great to feel empowered through the way we look, okay? But if we're feeling like that's our only sense of empowerment, then we need to really take a look at what's in these other cups. Like I said, it's just going to be important to dump them out, clean them, rearrange them, okay? But I think, so that's just for some of you, I think with the Ten of Swords here, for some of you, and this is why I think it's important, like the words cognitive dissonance. I may have just said something that rattled you completely, because I think that our system is broken. This capitalist system is destroying the environment, right? So it works and it doesn't, but we become a slave to it. We become a slave to the credit cards and trying to keep up with the Joneses. And I think that it's a really big place where if I rattled your world because my view is so completely different from yours, that's a good thing. You and I don't have to be the same. And there's nothing wrong with liking to shop. I do too. I think it's just that we need to be, what I heard is, more aware of where we put our resources. And things like this, they're saying with like the Ten of Swords, and it's time to put, what I heard is, put that shit to rest, right? There's going to be things in your world where make you think differently and look at things differently. Consumer culture is a huge thing. It's not just about makeup and shit like that. Like, I know a lot of what I said was girly, but this could be, buying expensive art which is nice, right? But if you don't have any room for it, right? Or if you constantly are getting shoes, but you don't wear half of them. And then I used to be the same way. My mom would be like, you can't get any more shoes, Sarah, until you throw a pair out. And I'd be so upset. I'd wait till I found the flip-flops that died, and I'd get rid of those. I've been there, my friends, and the thing is, it's just that I think with this Three of Wands, it being in reverse, until you clear the bush or brush, until you clear a path forward, it's going to be hard to move through. And if we're still filling our cup materialistically and things like that, we are not in balance or harmony with the universe, right? And I just wanted to say that too, because I think it's so important that we all pay attention to, like, our ecological footprint, our ecological footprint, right? So anyway, moving forward though, coming at things with empowerment and love, not beating yourself up or anyone up if you know that they, you don't agree with their way they live and all that. But this is, I feel like I heard hippie spirit as well, just coming at everything with the heart of love. What would love do is what I heard as well. What would love do in the situation? But also, if you don't agree with someone and how they live, it's really important what I heard is points of view and why, right? Because oftentimes it comes from experience. So there's a lot of like, you know, I grew up in a household where my mom definitely would have rather use baking soda and vinegar and stuff like that, washing soda, to clean things because it's way better for the environment. It's how you're raised, especially too. And we grew a lot of our own food, right? And we had like I grew up on a beef farm, so I'll get a little bit of information for you guys. But I grew up on a farm, so growing up, and my mom grew up on a farm. You know, growing up, the way I was raised, they were like they canned, right? They took care of their stuff. They made sure that they had enough food throughout the harvest season through to survive the wintertime. And it's because that's the way they had always done it, right? Coming from big families, I'll give you more because it's coming through, so it's probably my ancestors too. But I want to think about if coming through from a big farming thing. Like I was at a family reunion, and I found this huge picture, which I counted 13 kids and 2 adults, and I was like, "Is this all one family?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, but there was 15 kids. Just two weren't in this picture because they'd passed." And my grandmother, my great grandmother, was the oldest, 15, and then went on to have like I think 8 of her own children, right? Raised on a farm, having to can you imagine having that many children, having to make sure that everybody's fed? But this isn't the days of grocery stores. There is importance to how we live, right? There's importance to where some people, I remember, I'll share this story because I think it's coming to what I'm trying to say is when my hubby and I first got together, like first started living together a couple years in, what I'd been taught to do was store things and can things. And he'd be like, you don't have to. And my mentality is, well, yeah, I do. And I honestly think I had my grandmother, like this grandmother, with me at the time because it was just that's what she would have done, right? You have kids to feed, you have mouths to feed, this is what you have to do, like massive amounts of jam. I've since learned I'll freeze the fruit, use frozen stuff, and just make it small batches because I don't like heating my house up in the summertime. But it's also because it's just we have different technology. So I'm going to take this one, which is Dream Journal. Some of you pay attention to your dreams, not just in reality, but also in, dream space as well. What is it that what are your dreams? What are your hopes, your aspirations? What messages are coming to you in your dream space? How are they associated with your life and what's going on as well? Nourish Your Temple was here, which is similar to what I was saying with making sure you're eating food that is good for you, that you are taking care of your body, right? If you know what you're about to eat, and I mean, definitely, if you know what you're about to eat is going to hurt you, think about the consequences first. It's a learning experiment, my friends. So we have music here as well, listening to music that makes you happy. Drumming is here. There's a tambourine, just making noise and making a vision board forward on what are some things, even if you're having trouble filling your cup, that you may want to do. Some of you may want to can and preserve your own food, okay? But I think, I'm sorry I just went everywhere. I think it's going to be important for, like, a lot of people, okay? If today or tomorrow, there was no longer a grocery store, and I don't mean to be so, like, whatever about it, but if there was no longer a grocery store, there would be people who would not know how to feed themselves. If there were no longer, factories that were producing food, there are people that would struggle. If hopefully, and I mean, COVID was one of these things where a lot of people went back to basics and what they needed to learn. You take some things away, important lessons are learned. None of us liked being, I want to say, trapped inside for COVID, and none of us enjoyed that. But I think one thing I heard is resourcefulness, right? And there's another thing, it's like a meme, but it was something about, like, your great-grandmother survived the Depression because she knew how to do things. Her supply chain was local, and there is something here going back to basics. I think just this is coming through the spirit of love, but this guidance again, going in terms of what's filling our heart. If you, like I said, water it out, change, do some gardening, right? Do I like this? Take a bike ride, take a walk. For some of this stuff, I think it's important too, because as we're trying to, your family, your friends, your kids, there are things in there, but that yes, they're in those cups. We love them, but we need to ensure that those cups aren't dependent on anyone else. That's like the true self-love point, is where you have to love yourself and create joy in your world and do right by you, nourish your temple. There's all these things that create a healthy mindset, create our healthy bodies, and that keep us in connection with ourselves. And what I heard is the rhythm of the universe. So pay attention to the ancestral guidance you get, and making sure that everything that you do, you're feeling empowered in it, that you are empowering others. If you're noticing that something you're doing or saying is disempowering and is destroying someone's spirit, think about it. Say, why am I doing this? Really get in touch with yourself and ask yourself, what is the root of this? Did someone do this to me? Why do I think it's okay to do this to people? Do I think it's okay to do this, people? How can I remedy this? Making sure we make amends and we talk to people and we say we're sorry. I also heard this is super important with your children and younger people, especially if as a child you didn't hear sorry, or that you heard sorry but the behavior didn't change. There's a lot of things coming through that this isn't even just as kids, this is friendships, relationships, right? That we need to ensure that you want to live that hippie spirit, man. This is that free love. What I heard is there's not room for grudges in that. And that if we are holding grudges against our partner and we are with them, we are creating a wall, we're creating tension. It's something where I think going forward, both parties need to talk to each other in ways that is healing, and that if this has to do with a relationship, but both ways, that is healing, that is done with love, and that is meant to empower both yourself and other people that are involved in it. But also they're saying in terms of the Wheel of Fortune and whatnot, paying attention to the cycles. If you know in your world that, I want to say the continuum of violence, but that's one of them, right? There's cycles and cycles and cycles within families. Some of it is poverty, right? Some of it is hunger. Some of it is racism. We can go on and on and on to something that has affected us. And that and that we feel partly trauma, right? And we can see generation to generation to generation. I mean, also I'm hearing the Native people in Canada, if you have generations of being taken from your families to residential schools, that's a massive trauma. And that is something that is it's ingrained, so it's so hard to pinpoint, right, where it is, but this is where it's so looking at how you were raised, what you do and don't want to move on from, or to take with you, right, what you wouldn't want to hand down, what you're going through, and sometimes the struggles you're going through. Especially I heard if you have CPTSD or anything like that, or PTSD, or any kind of situation where you're trying to work through your day-to-day and stay in the present, but there are things from your past that have a decent hold on you, okay? So they're just saying in terms of looking at cycles, and it's not saying that this is okay, this explains the behavior, but your life and forward, what were the views and how was the treatment, people? It's just how they feel, and learned helplessness again. Also, this is what dropped out. Temperance and the Seven of Cups thing, because you're not going to do this. You're going to create balance. And the Three of Cups in the reverse here, but we're going to create balance, right, in our worlds. Going, okay, well, if I understand, too, that this is cycles, that it stops with me, right? You get a choice to move forward however you want, however the people have done it before you have done it, and just step your feet forward with your head held high. So I'm going to leave with the parting message. Thank you. The bottom is Judgment. Something is coming to the forefront. Something will be made right. I believe it was in the reverse. However, we have the Wheel of Fortune in the reverse, the Ten of Wands in the reverse, the Knight of Cups, the Ace of Wands is interesting. This is the Dragon Tarot again, but he's holding on to the dragon staff, which new life is coming while a volcano is happening. Not afraid of the fire. Not running away from this challenge because it looks tough, but leaning into it. And this will bring things back into balance. This fire, this water, moving forward and charging forward. I feel like for some of you, there is a cycle not yet done. The judgment has not come and the burden hasn't been put to rest. And again, Spirit's saying, because this is something underneath that, we had the Queen of Swords. I love this one. I believe she's got him by the tail, though, on her sword. And the moon. There's an importance, I think, to speak freely. And to not, what's the words I want to use? Not censor yourself because your opinion's different than someone else's. Kind of like I did my little capitalist rant, right? I apologize if it upset you. However, Shamanist song is sing, baby, sing, say what you need to say. Because your words have power and they matter, and there's vibrations in them. And a lot of the things that you have to say, they're being heaven sent. This also talks about listening to music. We have the journeyer at the bottom because you may be about to embark on something brand new and exciting. So go for it, enjoy, lead with your heart. And remember that spirit of empowerment. I hope that you feel empowered to make choices on the day-to-day that affect change in your worlds and that bring more peace, joy, and happiness to your worlds. Because, again, we are all so worthy of that. I love you all. Mwah. I will talk to you later. Bye, guys.